Hello and welcome back to MTG Money. I'm Matt, your host and the owner of EC Hipstar Games in a melting Eau Claire, Wisconsin. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at what you should be selling from the original 3 Time Spiral blocks before Time Spiral Remastered is released. Yesterday, Magic game designer Gavin Verhey announced on his Good Morning Magic show on YouTube a sneak peek of Time Spiral Remastered and gave us some information about the set before they start previews later this week. What we found out is that the main set is going to contain 289 cards, which is just under half of the cards included from the 3 original Time Spiral blocks put together. We also found out that the time-shifted sheet of cards, which will be included 1 per pack, does not contain any cards from those 3 blocks. So for today's show, we're going to jump over to EDHREC, take a look at the most played cards in Commander and their prices to decide what we should be pulling out of our binder and selling before previews later this week and before the main set releases on March 16th. Okay, so for anyone unfamiliar with EDHREC, I'm going to start at their homepage so you can see how we get to the part of the site that we're going to use for our analysis. And so we go to edhrec.com, come over here to Sets, and click on Sets again to bring up our full list of all the sets. And then we're going to scroll down 15 years into the past to the original Time Spiral. And we want all of the cards, not the commanders. So, one of the great things about EDHREC is that it shows the most recent reprint of each card. Along with that, it also shows data from Card Kingdom and TCG Player over here, along with Magic Online data, which we're not going to be using for this purpose. But if you are a Magic Online player, it might have some use to you. So things we'll be looking at here are cards that carry some value, obviously, along with our most played cards in Commander or EDH, because that's really, I'm assuming, what Wizards is going to be looking at as they're reprinting cards for Time Spiral Remastered. So, we have Frozen Grip, Return to Dust, Sign of the Ur-Dragon, which saw a reprint in Commander 2017, it looks like. Academy Runes saw a reprint in Double Masters in August of last year. So we're going to keep looking past those, and the reason for that is that the prices on those are not very high, to the point where if they do get a reprint in this set, it's probably not worth pulling out of our binder for. And looks like more of the same. Here's one in Safi Eriksdotter, about a $10 card. And for that, if I've got it in my binder, I'm probably going to pull that out. It is, let's see, number 11 for the most played. And one thing to clarify on that is EDHREC, when they talk in terms of most played, they're talking about percentages versus the number of decks that it could be in. So with a card like Safi, it is in 3% of all green and white decks. And that's important to remember because something like Terramorphic Expanse again can go in any deck. Whereas Safi, obviously because of the commander color identities, can only go in these green-white decks or decks that are playing those cards as part of their commander's color identity. So, our first card is probably going to be Safi. I would assume that will most likely show up in Time Spiral Remastered. And we've got Teferi, Mage of Sulfur again. That was last reprinted in Iconic Masters. I'm assuming we're going to see that in Time Spiral Remastered here. Because Wizard seems to love to reprint Legends, especially the ones they can go back to, like Teferi. And with that having a $5 value, I'm assuming we're going to see that. So if you do have it, it might be a good time to be moving that. Going down here, we've got Angel's Grace, which has not been reprinted since the original Modern Masters set. It does have Split Second, which is one of the reasons they probably have not reprinted that. However, being that we're in a Time Spiral set, we are almost assuredly going to see Split Second come back in this set, and I'm assuming now is going to be a great time to pull that out and get rid of it before it gets reprinted. Speaking of that, Gemstone Caverns has not been reprinted at all. Currently is running $52 to $55. We're almost assuredly going to see that in Time Spiral Remastered. I'm assuming probably at the Mythic slot, which should keep the price fairly high. I'm just ballparking it here. I'm thinking maybe it'll cut it down to $20 or $25 when the set first releases. But another thing to keep in mind with this is that the original Time Spiral block was before they included Mythic as a card category in the sets. So the highest rarity we had at that time was rare. So some of these cards, even though they were rare in the original blocks, are going to show up at Mythic in Time Spiral Remastered. So Gemstone Caverns is our first card that we are definitely going to want to be pulling out of our binder at the moment, and probably getting rid of before the set releases. And I would suggest trying to get rid of it before previews, because as soon as people know that the card is included, the price should start to drop as people ready themselves for the release of the set. Another one I think we'll see over here is Carabek the Merciless, with a $10 price tag and pretty good commander play. I'm assuming that is going to show up. And we've got some more cheap cards. I have had good luck with selling Paradox Haze lately, even with Time Spiral Remastered coming out. And it was included in either Mystery Booster or on the list, according to our sheet here. Flagstones of Trocaire, I'm going to assume that will be in there. Last reprinted in Ultimate Masters. That one's a consistent seller, though. And as long as we're in this row, I do have to say that I think Slivers are going to come back, and when we get to Future Sight, I'm sure that Sliver Legion will be included, but we'll catch that when we get to the next few pages here. And we've got Reiterate at $13. I would assume that will be in there. Keep in mind that, as I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, the set itself is going to have almost half of the cards from the original 3 sets in the block. So they've got a lot of room for reprinting a lot of cards here. Vesuva is another one with that $35 price tag or so that I think we need to assume is going to be included in this remastered set. And we've also got Walk the Aeons and Ancestral Vision. Ancestral Vision only has a $3 price tag, but it's one of those cards that is almost iconic for the set just because of the play that it got in Modern, kind of on and off. And I assume that card is going to be making an appearance. I don't know if it's worth selling at that $3 value for you, but I would assume that it's going to be in the set. Okay, we're getting down to 1% of play, so I think at this point we will go ahead and switch over to Planar Chaos and see what we can find from that set. Alright, and for this, I just jumped to the page itself, because you can navigate through the menus, you don't need to watch me do that. So, Planar Chaos. Right off the bat here, we've got Urbark, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Has not been reprinted since Magic 2015. Is pretty standard in a lot of black EDH decks. As you can see, it's seeing 11% of play in all black EDH decks. Any deck with black that can play it, which is pretty high. So I would assume at roughly $30 or so, we're going to be seeing that show up in the set. Could even be one of our mythics, although being that it's a land, they might just leave it in that rare slot. Does bring us to Damnation right next to it, seeing 10% of play and a $40 price tag. That one I'm going to have to assume is probably going to be showing up at Mythic, but we shall see. And as we scroll down here, we've got some $1, $2 cards. We're going to skip that, not because it won't show up, but just it's probably not worth selling off before the set releases. Okay, here we've got Imps Mischief with a $16 to $20 price tag, and that's because the ability of the card is not something we usually see in black, and I'm assuming that that's going to show up. We've also got Magus of the Coffers, or Magus of the Coffers, who knows. Feel free to correct me on how to say that one in the comments there. But with a $5 price tag, I'm assuming that is something that we're going to see in the set. Hasn't been reprinted since Commander 2014, and probably worth pulling out of your binder before it gets reprinted. If it does keep that rare slot, a reprint could take this maybe down to $1 or $2, especially right after the set releases. And let's keep going here. Simeon Spirit Guide, which got a recent banning, but I'm assuming we're going to see that in the set because it's another one of those iconic cards with high playability. And also Mana Tithe, which just got a reprint in either the list or the mystery booster. But it's one of those things where they're talking about giving white more tools. I think, even though this is not a typical ability for white, I think this is something that we'll see show back up in the set. Again, it's only $1, so probably not worth selling your copies off. Just saying that I think it's something we'll be seeing here. As we go down, we've got Retether with $5 or so. And that returns all auras to play, which is... Yeah, sorry, I was just reading it for a second. Does return all auras to play. That's such a white ability. I can almost guarantee we're going to see that come back in the set. And with about that $5 price tag, I think that's another one that we're probably going to see drop to 1 or 2, and hopefully climb back up from there. But if you've got it in your collection right now, that's one that I would probably be getting rid of. Rebuff the Wicked, I'm assuming we're going to see that. Questionable if it's going to be rare or if they'll keep it in that uncommon slot. And as we go down here, we're getting into more of the cheaper cards. Temporal Extortion at $12. That one I would say definitely get rid of. I think we will see that one back in the Time Spiral Remastered set. And I think at this point we will go ahead and switch over to Future Sight. Here we are over at Future Sight, and first thing on our list is going to be the dual lands from the set, and I have to assume that those are going to show back up. It looks like most of them got reprinted in Iconic Masters, and for the most part, other than Horizon Canopy, they are holding a $3 to $4 price tag, with Horizon Canopy down here holding that $16 to $20 price. I'm assuming we're going to see the full cycle come back. So those I would definitely get rid of, especially Horizon Canopy if you're holding onto it and not playing it. And actually that's one thing I do want to point out before we really dive into Future Sight here, is selling these cards off before Time Spiral Remastered comes out. I would still say only sell the card if you're not planning to play it. If it's in a deck, something that you play regularly, probably not worth messing around with reselling it and then trying to buy back in a month or so. So let's keep going on Future Sight. We've got Pact of Negation. I would assume that the whole pack cycle will be coming back. I'm also assuming that it's going to come at rare, although Pact of Negation would be a great one to include at Mythic for them because of that $35 price tag. I think you either have to make the whole pack cycle Mythic or keep it at rare, and because of that, I believe that they will most likely be keeping it at rare, but that remains to be seen. Either way, I think we're going to see the pack cycle come back. If you've got Pact of Negation, I would go ahead and get rid of it before the set releases. Delay is another one. At $5, I think we should probably go ahead and get rid of it and sell that off, because I assume that we're going to see that showing up in the deck. Now here's the big guy. We've got Sliver Legion. It's $100. That is almost assuredly going to be their Mythic that they're using to sell the set. That's one of those cards that if it sees a reprint, it's probably going to get down to $40 or $50 for about a week, if that even, and then start climbing back up. I would expect it to hold, with Time Spiral Remastered having roughly $200 box price. I think this one could jump up pretty quick, maybe settling around possibly like 60 to 70, maybe even 80 again, depending how much of this gets printed and bought up. But Sliver Legion, I think, is one that we can definitely sell right now, and then when the set releases, if you want it again, probably buy back in quickly while everybody's cracking those cases open. Dryad Arbor, another $10 card. I assume that one probably is going to get upshifted to a rare, but we will see. just because of the play that it's seen historically in the last 15 years. But it's also a card that has not had a reprint since the original Future Sight, so I assume that the price on this could drop pretty hard depending what that rarity is. If we see it at Uncommon again, I would expect the price to come down quite a bit, and that's one that I would be selling from my binder. Venser, moving over to him, and with a $10 price tag, last reprinted in Modern Masters 2017, still showing a pretty good price for a fairly recent reprint. I would assume he'll be in the set. I would sell him out of my binder if I had one, and then probably buy back in if I really wanted to. As we scroll down here, we've got the lands, we've got the Magus of the Moon, still out on that. $15 price tag. I assume we're going to get some cycles of those again in the main set. I would be selling if I had this. Teleria West, again, kind of like Dryad Arbor. If they keep that whole cycle at Uncommon, the price on this could come down really hard. I would be selling if I had that. Coalition Relic, last reprinted in Magic 25, Masters 25. I would assume that'll be in the set, and I would be getting rid of that if I had it. Summoner's Pact, kind of like I said with Pact of Negation, I would get rid of it if I had it. That Pact cycle is almost assuredly in Time Spiral Remastered. I would sell it if I've got it. And as we scroll down, we've got a Chromos Memorial. That was a Mythic in Magic 2015. We can assume that's going to be back here. We can assume it's going to be at Mythic. It is going to hit the price a little bit, probably drop to $15 or $20, and then slowly creep back up from there. But again, if you've got it, it's a $30 card at the moment. I would sell it. And as we scroll down, 50-cent cards, $1. We've got the Heartwood Storyteller. Good card. Has not been reprinted since Future Sight. I assume it's going to be in the set. I would sell it, and probably buy back in if you want one. One of the things with some of these cards that have not been reprinted since the original sets, part of the reason that their prices are so high is just due to scarcity. So as we inject all this new supply into the market, some of these have been, or maybe will tank pretty hard, and not all of them are going to climb back up to their original prices here. Cloud Key, I assume that'll be in there at $30. I'm selling. And now we're looking at some lower priced cards. We've got Sword of the Meek, just got reprinted in Double Masters. Gibbering Descent, that's probably one I'm selling at $7. Let's scroll back up to Bitter Ordeal. For some reason, we've got a $17 price tag on Card Kingdom and 30 cents on TCG Player. Looks like that is something that might just be an issue with the APIs that's getting converted over to EDHREC here. Because even at $10, that shouldn't be throwing up that 30-cent price tag. And as we scroll down, it looks like we're getting into the cards that are seeing less play. And I think we will probably just go ahead and call our dive into the sets right there. So I hope some of this information was helpful as you go through your collection before Time Spiral Remastered previews start and the set is released on March 16th. I wanted to make this show because this is the same process that I was using as I go through my cards before the information of the set comes out, and I thought it would be something that I should really share with you viewers. Hopefully some of the information I shared with you will help you decide what you want to keep or sell before Time Spiral Remastered comes out. If you like this style of show, please let me know so I can do more like this. Hit the like button, leave a comment, share it on social media, would be great. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you later in the week with another show about the fundamentals of buy listing cards.